All right, I think we will get started. Please allow me to introduce our infamous guest, Miss Tiffany Pittman. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Border, guiding your clients to a global lifestyle along the Mediterranean. For those I have not yet had the opportunity to meet, I'm Jason Gentry, a global real estate advisor with Premier Sotheby's International Realty in Charlotte, and your current chair of NC Realtors Global. It's a privilege to serve our members by helping create opportunities to expand our knowledge, strengthen international connections, and better serve clients whose real estate needs extend beyond North Carolina and the United States. It is now my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Tiffany Pittman. Tiffany and I became friends while working together at Premier Sotheby's International Realty here in Charlotte. Although her journey has since taken her to Spain Sotheby's International Realty, we remain connected as colleagues through the Sotheby's International Realty Global Network. Based on the Costa del Sol, Tiffany brings a distinctive perspective to international real estate. Her experience as a former U.S. real estate advisor, pediatric nurse, hospital administrator, property owner, and most importantly, someone who has personally relocated her family to Spain allows her to guide clients with precision, discretion, and genuine empathy. Today, Tiffany will share her firsthand knowledge of Mediterranean living and help us better understand how to advise clients considering a move or investment abroad. We hope this webinar will become part of an ongoing series introducing NC Realtor members to different global markets and the unique opportunities and attributes each offers. If you know someone who could provide an insightful perspective on another international market, we would love to hear your suggestions. Please save all your questions for the end. Tiffany will open the session for Q&A. And without further ado, please welcome me and join me, my friend Tiffany Pittman. I'll let you take it from here.
Jason, thank you so much for the kind introduction. Hi, everyone. I also want to thank the entire North Carolina NAR team for facilitating this meeting today. I think it's a wonderful venture that more deeply connects and allows us to serve our clients in a better, more holistic way, right? I'm beyond honored to have been asked to join everyone today. And first and foremost, I want to say congratulations. You're here. You're the few that are taking the steps to elevate your value for your clients and to be able to speak to true global motility and what that looks like in the current world of real estate. So I'm going to ask, Jason's going to be my slide facilitator today. We're going to pull up some slides and we're just going to kind of work through that today. And as he said, we'll save questions for the end. All right. I think everybody can see that. Perfecto. So as already mentioned, I'm Tiffany Pittman of Spain Sotheby's International Realty. And today we'll explore how you can guide your clients toward a global lifestyle, covering concepts that can be utilized anywhere in the world, really. But for today, there will be a bit more emphasis on relocating along the Mediterranean in Spain, because that is where I personally landed on my own journey toward global citizenship. As said, I know everyone's going to have a lot of questions. We will have a Q&A at the end. And my plan is for us to have plenty of time at the conclusion to kind of share those questions. I feel that's more of a transaction of information versus me just kind of sitting in everyone's ear for the entire hour. So we'll run through the slides, and any questions we don't get to, my inbox is always open.
My dad suggested Carrabba's.
And any questions, don't hesitate to text me, and I always make sure to get back to everyone, okay? All right, so we can go to the next slide, Jason. All right, so right now the definition of home is shifting. What we're witnessing is a historic rise in what I like to call lifestyle arbitrage. So an abundance of Americans aren't just looking for new zip codes at this point anymore. They are seeking a completely different way of life. So today our goal is to discuss why this demographic is growing and how we as realtors can help navigate the complexities that come with it. Now, this works in both ways, right? It works for us referring and sending clients out into the world, into different real estate markets, as well as it does us welcoming those that are investing in the US coming from foreign places. So for today's discussion, we're going to kind of gravitate toward three key pillars that are going to shift our thought processes, okay? So first is going to be the new global citizen. So we're going to analyze the data behind the surge of Americans that are seeking international relocation, particularly where quality of life and value meet. Second, we're going to look at the global agent advantage. That's all of us. We're going to explain why real estate agents with global reach are uniquely equipped to handle these transitions. We don't just facilitate a sale, we bridge cultural and professional gaps between the US and the rest of the world. And then that third pillar is going to be navigating the technical divide. We're going to cover the how by performing a brief side-by-side technical comparison of what real estate looks like in the US versus what it looks like in Spain. As you can imagine, those processes I thought would be similar, but they do differ pretty greatly. Now, as we work through all of this conversation, let's please keep in mind that some of these moving pieces are quite complex, and our collaboration with other professionals is necessary, and I'll be sure to try to mention those just to keep in your wheelhouse whenever you're working with clients looking at making an international relocation. All right, and the network just keeps networking. Other real estate agents, we have plenty of attorneys that we need to be friends with. All right, we can go to the next slide. All right, perfect. So just to get us started, before we get too deep into this information, I just want to share a little bit about me and my own personal why. So exactly a year ago, July 2025, I did what many of our clients are thinking of doing, and I moved my family from Charlotte, North Carolina to the coast of southern Spain to this gorgeous little town called Estepona. You're all invited to come visit me. And that didn't start as a professional journey. It was more of a personal education, I would say. So, navigating international relocation, that is finding the right schools, obtaining a visa, managing a transatlantic move, and settling into a new culture. It has definitely been a journey that's worth sharing. So, I'm glad to get to share it with all of you today. So I've transitioned my expertise from Southeast US to the Spanish market, as Jason has already mentioned. So started off with Premier Sotheby's International Realty based at Charlotte, and then transitioned over to Spain Sotheby's International Realty here out of the Marbella office, which is about 20 minutes drive from Estepona. And so I've transitioned that expertise, but also it helped elevate me to not just be a trusted partner, but I'm also that boots on the ground with that real relocation know-how. So I'm ready to help guide you and your clients through any of that transition process along the journey. Now, let me say this, you don't have to move abroad to provide this, but you do work with your professional network and you stay connected and informed to the same degree that we're doing here, and we can end up helping that transition for our clients. All right, so we'll just go ahead and dive in. Next slide. All right, so going back to that first pillar, we're going to talk some numbers about migration and what the statistics are trying to tell us right now. So in 2025, the United States of America recorded negative net migration for the first time since 1935, with a deficit expected about 150,000 people. So what does that mean? So expatriation jumped about 100%. This isn't just retirees taking their pensions and their 401k funds overseas anymore. It's a youth exodus. A staggering 63% of Americans aged 18 to 34, and let's think about that, that's our peak working years, are open to the thought or actually considering a move abroad. Spain specifically has had its American citizen population double over the last decade. So it's exciting times for us global minded agents, right? There's a lot of movement. And historically, it's easier now than ever to be connected and move around the different corners of the world. So people are going to be more mobile at this point in time. And so we're getting a little bit more adventurous. So we're seeing, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but we're seeing cash flows start to cross borders a little bit more than it ever has. Next slide. All right, so next we're gonna discuss the emotional aspects. So while US luxury focuses on those gated communities, Spanish luxury offers something completely different. We see a lot of people looking for that social security. So imagine the peace of mind for families that are picking up, moving to Spain, and they're free from the stress of active shooter drills. I have two little girls, so that played a very prominent part in our decision to relocate, right? And then that is a must-buy feature that no home in North Carolina is going to be able to provide. So people are starting to look outside of borders, and real estate agents are going to be the first point of contact. Research shows that expats in Spain specifically experience a measurable 7% reduction in negative emotional stressors during their first years of residency, facilitating a biological reset. And that's all something we want to keep in mind when we're connecting with this type of clientele. Go to the next slide. All right, so here is where it gets fun. Next time you run into any of our National Association of Realtors, especially in North Carolina, if you see a Jason Gentry, when you see Angela, give them a hug, because the organization that comes from having these people back you up is a very, very big deal that we do not have in Spain. Okay, so let's look at this. So as we navigate the technical divide, remember that Spain's real estate landscape is very, very fragmented. Here, agents must be able to tap into their local networks for inventory because there is no centralized MLS. And where there is one, it still remains fragmented, where you're going to have a bunch of off-market pocket deals going on behind the scenes. This makes having a Spain-based buyer's agent a necessity. Also, the largest surprise for me in my personal relocation, in Spain, there is no real estate agent licensure. So the barrier to entry is low, making who you work with and seek guidance from that much more important. Next, we're going to talk about the RS agreement. This is critical and a good point to warn your clients about if they are looking at Spain. It's not really a warning, but it's just a little different. You want to think of this as your U.S. earnest money deposit. It's typically about 10% of the purchase price, and if a seller breaches the contract, they must pay the buyer double that deposit. That's high stakes, right? Alternatively, should there be a buyer breach of contract, those funds are lost completely. So that can be devastating to the client's bottom line. You want to be able to warn them about that beforehand. Also, a notary in Spain differs from a notary in the US. Here, they're going to be the final hand on the transaction. They're representative of the state, and they formally record the transaction information. So for clients to have the most success, they will need their own real estate attorney to protect their interest. And everyone has to be paid, right? So clients need to prepare for about 10% of the purchase price in solicitor's fees in tax coverage. As you can see, there's a little bit of information that we can provide to gently guide your clients into their relocation journey. They may have purchased several investment properties in the US, but internationally, the processes that they're comfortable with at home may differ very greatly depending on where they're going once they start crossing borders and dealing with different systems and processes. All right, we'll go on to our next slide. All right, now let's dive into a really important topic, It does move away from real estate just for a moment, but it is crucial in the relocation process and the purchase process. And that's going to be looking at visas and residency status. So if you're planning to move abroad, obtaining a visa is absolutely essential. So many of you have probably noticed the rise in the nomadic lifestyle, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've all had to adapt our daily routines for safety, and many people found new ways to stay productive while working from home. The shift created new opportunities for remote work and increasing motility for our clients. So, for instance, in Spain, like several other countries, they've introduced a digital nomad visa. So this is a game changer if you have a client that's a remote worker earning around 3,000 euros a month. It allows them to live and work in Spain, but they will be working for the most part, a remote company. However, it's important to remember that ownership does not automatically grant residency. So there is that distinction I just want you to keep in mind, because it is crucial for your clients to understand. And that leads me to go into another popular visa. It's called the Golden Visa, which is basically for retirees, you would think, that wanted to come in and invest in a new space. But what they asked was that you could make a purchase of 500,000 euros. Most of that went into real estate, and then people achieved their residency status through that purchase. Sounds like a fantastic financial opportunity, but the catch is that the Spain Golden Visa program ended in 2025. So now those clients that were once hoping for a program like that need to employ tax nomad strategies to navigate their relocation effectively. So this is where discussing options such as the Beckham law, which is something here in Spain, with a tax attorney that can really help. So that's where you want to engage a tax attorney, because it can make a difference depending on what visa they're looking for, how long they're planning on living somewhere. Encouraging clients to seek professional guidance from an immigration attorney and a tax attorney early in the process can streamline their relocation significantly. Okay, so again, I want to reiterate why this is important. A client's residency status has a substantial impact on their financing options and their tax implications. So, for example, in Spain, if you're a legal resident, typically you can finance up to about 80% of their property purchase. In contrast, if you have a foreign buyer that's coming over, banks are really only going to give them about 70%. So someone needs to decide how long they're going to be here and if they plan on staying for the long term. If your client is only seeking a holiday home purchase, they become a taxable Spanish resident if they are within the country for more than 183 days out of the year. Can you imagine hearing that you purchased this house and you weren't prepared with that information, and then you're getting a bill from the Spanish tax agencies because you just went over about that 184-day period? Okay, so visas, immigration attorneys, tax attorneys, those are going to be your points of contact that you want to go ahead and prep your clients for. I think it clearly illustrates how those conversations can influence every aspect of your client's relocation and their purchasing plans. We want to stay proactive in keeping them informed and prepared for their journey as they're seeking purchases over borders. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. All right, so now we're going to look at some luxury market arbitrage. So in terms of purchasing power, the average luxury spend in Spain is going to be about 3,247 euros per square meter. So that roughly equates to about 345 per square foot. All right, so you want to remain cognizant that the average per square foot cost in Charlotte is around what, Jason, maybe about 250 per square foot. I want to say in Raleigh it's maybe a little bit lower, 230, 240. All that to say, to be global minded is to also shed light on preconceived ideas. Most people think a move abroad means cheaper living, but depending on where they're currently living and where they plan to move, as we can see from these numbers, that might not be the case. So you want to keep them prepped with that information when it comes to these big purchases. The difference between the two, though, lies in the things that you can't really put a price tag on, right? A $2 million investment in Raleigh or Charlotte is going to look very different than a $2 million investment here in Spain. Here in Spain, you can get a villa, oceanfront, in Cadiz, or you can land in one of the branded residences that are providing elite amenities and design. So, this is the vital selling point for clients that are looking to diversify their investments. But also, you want to give them that forewarning. Yes, you want to feel like it seems really cheap. You're not really paying for something, I hate to use the word cheap, but it's going to be other things outside of the purchase that you can't really put a price tag on that they're looking for, and that's what they need to focus on. All right, next slide. All right, so Spain, it's going to feel very intimidating for these US clients. So we can get over a purchase in the States and put what, 5-10% down, depending on what incentives you're going to catch. And that is not the case in Spain. It's going to be very much more straightforward, by the books. You put your 30% or your 40% down, and that's going to be the expectation. But there are other fees on top of that. So here, you're probably calculating it in your mind. The process they'll go through the home hunting search. There's usually a 1% reservation fee that's going to take place, and that's what pulls a home off the market. I like to equate this to our due diligence in the States. This is where you'll engage your attorneys, and they'll start going in, checking the legal documents, land registries, all of that. Okay? Then the client is going to come in, and you're going to do that ARIS contract or the ARIS agreement, which is like the final purchase contract. That's where that 10% of the purchase price monies is going to come in. So let's put that all together. And they also want to account for about 10% of the purchase price for solicitor's fees. Okay? So you have to prep your clients to think, all right, they're coming in having to have cash of about 40 to 50%, depending on their situation, up front in order to purchase a home. And you also want to remind them not to forget the currency exchange rates. All right, so you got to prep them for that too. The problem is, or the perk to that is that you have a lot of those upfront costs, but your ongoing carrying costs are going to often be significantly lower. So for example, property tax typically stays under about €1,000 per year on a home that's valued at 400,000 here. So clients are going to pay more at the table, but significantly less on their month to month for a higher quality of life. Right, next slide. All right, so we're going to be able to wrap it up and just make the full picture here. So in conclusion, what we're witnessing is a fundamental pivot in migration patterns. For modern U.S. investors, Spain is more than real estate. It's a lifestyle hedge. By leveraging favorable currency arbitrage, buyers are trading the complexities of the U.S. climate for the security of the Iberian Peninsula. Relocating across continents requires more than just an agent. It demands a global ecosystem to ensure streamlined or seamless transitions. So all of you here today are already the front runners in piloting that ecosystem. We are there to provide the local expertise and the global coordination needed for our clients to have successful transactions. So I want to thank you all for that. And then my information was going to be on the last slide. And that's perfect. It gives us about 30 minutes to kind of delve into questions moving forward. And I'm excited to open the floor with any questions.
And feel free, if you guys have questions, you can type them into the chat or unmute yourself, turn your camera on if you want to. Feel free to ask that question in person as well. It's a small enough group. I don't think we'll run into too many issues here.
I have a question.
Please, Karen.
Yeah.
Hi, Tiffany. I'm Karen Lindsay. I'm with Canopy Realtor Association in the Charlotte area. And
Yes.
question is, do you see that folks making like this type of move go straight into purchasing their property, or do they like do rentals first? And then if they do, how do you as an agent assist in that type of process?
Right. So I'm usually pretty transparent with people whenever they're making such a big transition. Um, the coastline, especially the coastline, is very diverse and has these different little micro markets. And you're not going to explore all of those on a 2 week vacation where you're coming in. You just don't have the ability to do that. And the culture of where you live can vary, even from like little neighborhoods. They call them urbanizations here. It can vary very much on the same street from one urbanization to the next. So I do encourage people to rent for that first spell of time. I would say 6 months to a year, because I think it really does take you that much amount of time to thoroughly assess where your family is going to be comfortable. And I think that's really important when you're making such a big life transition of moving somewhere you might not know the culture. For me, I'm learning Spanish is a process that I see myself in for a long time. Um, and so there's enough moving pieces to where you really want to make sure where you do purchase, you want to be completely comfortable um, in that decision. Now, the ones that are coming in and just want to buy, I try my best. I've had a couple. What I've seen, most of those are going to be your investors, and they're more numbers driven for the rental and return on investment. So if they're an investor and they're just coming in to look for those high traffic markets, what can they get the best bang for their buck? Those are a little bit easier to work with because you know their bottom line is just what that cash flow is going to be. The ones that are coming in and looking to live and move here, it's just going to be a lot of hands on, a lot of time in the car. When you show a property, I'm not just showing them the property, I'm walking out into the neighborhood. I'm telling them what it feels like at night. I'm updating them on the different festivals. Spain, every city has a different festival every day. I think there's something going on, especially in those summer months. Do you really want your family in the condo that's right there by the fairgrounds when they have a fair every other month, you know? So having those conversations with them to try to best prepare them as much as possible.
Got a question in the chat for you from Kathleen Janoris. She says, what are the required steps to be an agent overseas? Join an international realty like Sotheby's? You said license isn't required, but are there other requirements?
There is no barrier to entry, none here. If you come in, you're going to set yourself up. In Spain, it's called an autonomo, which means you're self employed. You could set yourself up as unemployed and start marketing yourself as a real estate agent here in Spain. So you are going to have a variety of different skill levels that are going to tell you that you are a real estate agent. So I think that that's why it's very important to come in and actually have those conversations before you refer someone out to your clients out to someone. Um, I've seen where someone might do one or two transactions and they're just helping their friends that are moving, you know, from wherever, and that's the only transaction they've ever done. So they're not going to know how do they contact the notary, how are they doing valuations for them. So it is very important that you have those conversations when you yourself as an agent might be interviewing other agents in order to send out referrals.
So in that same vein, I've been lucky enough to place several referrals to overseas countries, and we get used to this concept in the United States of a 25% referral fee. What do you see in Spain? Is it similar? Is it different? What could an agent expect on that referral side?
For the most part, it's going to still be standard as a 25% referral fee. it'll be operating the same way. And they actually do their commission splits here as far as like seller side, buyer side. You'll see where they do a total listing commission of 5%, and that's split between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. So it operates very similarly in that, right?
Hey, Tiffany. I was the one who asked the question in the chat. Kathleen Janoris from Keller Williams in Wilmington.
Kathleen.
Yes, thank you. Quick question. What do you think is the easiest way to learn all of those little nuances? Like, how do I contact a notary? Would you recommend observing other agents? Again, do you have a brick and mortar over there?
Yep. So with Spain Sotheby's International Realty, we have a brick and mortar. There are a lot of agencies that do. The best is going to be, if you're trying to learn the full process, is just have a reliable mentor and support system, because as we said, there's no regulation on how people operate. And so you have to be careful, like, oh, I'll give you an example. I went to a conference, and it was basically where they were having a conversation, kind of the same thing we're doing here, asking how people navigate Spanish real estate, and had an agent presenting at a conference. I will go nameless on that one. That said that for that 10% payment, they would have their clients just wire the money to the seller's bank account. So completely bypassing like an escrow account. So this was an agent that was presenting at a conference. So you just have to like pick up on little things like that, and ask the hard questions and ask the same question to multiple people. And then I've learned that I've kind of had to find my own footing in knowing like how strict and regulated we are in the States, to come over and be like, all right, how do I mesh this into what I'm comfortable with and still have some sort of ethical. The word ethics is another thing, when especially when you have no barrier to entry. That's a whole nother webinar, I think. But
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, thank you for asking.
Certainly plenty of time here for any other questions in the chat, or feel free to chime in, unmute yourselves. What's been like the biggest shock for you, Tiffany? Like jumping from real estate in America, where everything is kind of so just step by step, process oriented, versus how things are done in Spain. What's been the biggest shock for you there as a practitioner?
Yeah, there are a few things that stand out to me the most. One is we had all the conversations around agency. That all happened right before I moved. And I have grown to appreciate the fact that we do have to establish agency so soon on in the transaction in the States, because it protects you as an agent as well as your clients. Here, it is rare to see exclusive agency on much of anything. That's the buyer side or the seller side. You can see a listing that has 10 different agencies representing it, and it makes me question, if I'm the agent and I have $1 million property that I'm listing and I know 10 other agencies have it, depending on what platform and whose name just happened to be at the top of that platform, am I going to be inputting my all to be able to market it to the way that I know it deserves to be marketed, you know? So you have that. And then even the buyer agency end, you'll have clients come in that will be working with multiple buyer's agents. And that can be a point of frustration, because depending, if you're the agent, you weren't available on Sunday and they wanted to view on Sunday, so they contacted someone else, but that's a client you've been working for 6 months, you could lose that client pretty quickly. So it places that much value on your clients being able to trust you and know that like you have their best interest at heart, because that's what's going to make you stand out from everyone else, that's in the market, working the market right now. So the agency conversation, both on the property and within the relationships. I will say, on top of the agency, I called an agent inquiring about a property for a client. And the first thing she said to me was, she said, "Do you know where that is? That's a terrible neighborhood." I was like, "This is your listing, friend." Like, don't say that. Like, that's not what you say. And just like the disclosure of material facts, not a thing. You hope that you're working with agents that you can trust, but again, you're always just kind of questioning the footwork and making sure you want to do that deep dive and knowing who to contact when you want the real answers.
Absolutely. I think you've got a lead here. Rachel Sumrell says she speaks Spanish and teaches online. So if anyone's looking to learn Spanish, reach out to Rachel.
Oh, yeah, it's a process. Right. And don't talk about the language barriers on top of it.
Any other questions from the crowd?
Tiffany, I have a question for you. With this
Yeah.
transition that you made, one, how did you decide that you wanted to transition over there? Was it because Spain specifically was a little bit lower barrier to entry as an agent? Or because I know like I could travel to Italy a lot and I've been trying to figure out how to bridge that gap
Mhm.
myself. But Italy does require you to go through licensing. So yeah, how did you pick Spain and yeah, what were the factors in that, in career wise and lifestyle wise?
Yeah. So I will say, our decision, my family's decision to move to Spain had nothing to do with the professional guys, right? So we came over for a lifestyle change and we had actually made it up where we were deciding like if I did not practice real estate, what were our other options? Um, and it's kind of a testament to the power of networking as well, because I was talking to my broker in charge at the Charlotte office. I think she's on the call. Hi, Jill.
Yes.
And oh, she is, and was able to put me in contact with the right people. And miraculously, I mean, I feel like it was a universe aligning for me, right? They were like, "Oh, well, actually, we're doing an expansion of Spain Sotheby's International Realty. They're opening an office in Marbella, which is 15 minutes up the road from where we were planning on settling." And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe this is my sign that I'm supposed to still be in real estate." And so here we are. um, but yeah, the licensure, yeah, not so much. We were looking at Spain specifically. Um, Me and my husband just knew we wanted to go somewhere and explore something different, have a little bit of a different life experience for our daughters. We really want them to have that global mindset. And in speaking with other people in the expat groups, Facebook expat, if you are looking for marketing, please check your area expat web Facebook pages because there's a lot of people that are really mobile. Um, anyway, but we knew we wanted to learn Spanish. So that was one of the pools for us. We knew we needed some of the modern amenities, good infrastructure, and we knew we wanted decent schools for our girls to grow up in. And we wanted proximity for travel to other places for us to explore while still having a home base somewhere. And so that's how we ended up based in Spain. And then the real estate just kind of followed with me. And I was just lucky, fortunate enough to be with an international brand already.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Tiffany, it's great to see you. Thank you for sharing. And Jason, thank you so much for hosting this wonderful information provided to all. Tiffany, with your family and your children, if somebody's thinking about doing this, I know your children are young, but how did you begin to prepare them for the change in lifestyle?
So that's a great question. So we started pulling out maps. And we were fortunate enough, both of my daughters have a small obsession with airplanes. And so they had both already had their initial airplanes trips to Mexico. We had a family wedding in Mexico, and we're like, "Oh, all right, remember we went to this beach for cousin Marcus's wedding. We took the plane and we landed right here. Well, now we're going to take the plane and we're going to land here." And then once they heard that it had a beach, they were pretty good to go. They just wanted to be near the water. And that was valuable for us. We were fortunate because of their age too. They were 2 and 4 at the time. So they were just kind of, oh, wherever you go, we're going to go. And that's a harder conversation to have with families that are looking to relocate with older children. It is significantly more difficult with older kids once they start getting up to like preteen. In my conversations with parents here that have older kids, so that's something to warn, not really warn, but to help support people through is the importance of the school that they end up going to, because there's going to be a language transition, and the proximity to that school is going to be important if they're looking to purchase something, especially depending on infrastructure and where they're moving to.
I had another question.
Yes.
Absolutely, Karen, go ahead.
So, can you spell the place where you're living, and are you in proximity to any large cities in Spain?
Yeah. Karen, you're coming to visit me. I can feel it. I'm in a town is Estepona. So that's Estepona.
Okay.
Estepona. And it is in a very good sweet spot. So along the Costa del Sol, the largest city is going to be Malaga, which is about 50 minutes drive from Estepona. Malaga is going to be like a center hub where you have there's a Google that is there. Oracle just opened an office there that are developing a whole technology park, and they have the local international, perfect, yep, and they have the local international airport there, as well as the high-speed AVE rail line runs directly through Malaga, which can pretty much get you anywhere else in Spain from there. So Estepona is about 50 minutes drive from there.
Oh, okay.
And then down on the other side, you'll see Gibraltar. And I don't know if y'all have been watching the news. They just opened the border of Gibraltar. Has been bordered up with a wall, and you having to do passport checks in order to get through. But Spain and Gibraltar just came to an agreement where those borders have been taken down this week. So there's a lot of people, it being a UK area, there's a lot of people that live in Gibraltar, and there's an airport in Gibraltar as well. But usually it's a smaller airport, so those connections have to go usually through London in order to disperse out to other places. But yeah, we're right there in the southern coast, right at the tip. You can look across the water and see the coast of Africa on a clear day.
I see a hand up from Tracy Johnson. Please, Tracy, unmute and go right ahead.
Thank you so much. Hi, Tiffany. Thank you, first of all. This has been a really great presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you for inviting me to check it out. This is really informative. As you know, I am actually also planning a move to Spain. I'm going specifically to Alicante next year. And so I'm wondering, in other countries, I know that some real estate agents have developed relationships with developers in different countries. A couple that I know of specifically, like in Johannesburg and Barcelona and a few others. And so I'm wondering, is that an area that you see a lot of agents or some agents having a special niche in? Or I'm sure it's probably much more difficult as an expat to get into that because it is highly relational. But I'd love to hear if you've had any experience with that.
Yeah, so right now, if you look down the coast of Spain, I think I just did a deep dive on this week. So Estepona alone has 63 new developments taking place. So that is how big the growth is here right now. There are a pocket full of agents that go in and they have those deep relationships with the developers. The thing right now is it's just a little bit more commercial. So you have big developers that are coming in and they have several different projects going on in like the same area. But it can be a little bit, I want to say it's difficult, but then I also want to say it's not difficult because Spain is having the opposite issue of what the States is having right now. So more people are moving out of the States right now by record from 2025. Spain is having an influx of people. So you have a bunch of new developers that are coming in. There's a handful that are from Switzerland here that are putting out some really good products. There's a handful from the Netherlands. And so you're having these different types of construction too that are more appealing because the coast of Spain specifically is a high expat concentration area, even in Alicante. I would almost venture to say I see a lot more growth going on in Alicante here soon because the price point is still a little bit subdued compared to, we're just so close to Marbella. Marbella has been the golden spot since the 50s at this point. So it's getting where it's a little bit concentrated here, but Alicante has a lot of room of growth. And I could see some developers coming in there.
Tiffany, I see all of your contact information down below. For those folks who don't know the number, I assumed, correct me if I'm wrong, that starts with 34, that would be tied in with you using your WhatsApp. Is that correct?
They're both, yep. Either one is going to work. U.S. clients prefer to see the U.S. number, and then that's my Spanish number. But I have two WhatsApp accounts just to make
Okay,
sure I have them
fantastic.
all.
So either one would work if you want to reach out to
Yeah,
Tiffany. I also see both of your email addresses and your website. What I do
yeah,
not see, and I want to ask your permission to share it with everyone, is your Instagram account. You do such a great
yeah.
job kind of promoting the lifestyle there and what you guys are doing. Is it okay if I drop that in the chat?
Yeah, you can drop it in. All of my social media handles is Tiffany Pittman Global. That's it. So it's Instagram. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. And on the website, I try to keep it updated, but I do some educational pieces. You can find a blog about pretty much a little bit of everything real estate on there, and I just try to generate those on a monthly basis for anybody that's looking for additional resources.
Fantastic. We still have about 5 minutes if anyone else has any questions. And then I'm going to turn it over to our Angela Burgess, our staff extraordinaire. Karen?
I have this one. Were there any other regions of Spain or other countries you considered before landing on your location?
Yeah, so like I said, we ventured the most we leaned toward Spanish speaking because we had both being in the States had some exposure to that, myself and my husband, and we were very interested in learning the language. Also knowing that it's one of the more widely spoken languages globally, we wanted that for our daughters to be kind of like a foundational second language for them. So we looked at Mexico for a while, but decided we needed a little bit more development in the infrastructure. And then also politically, we thought that might have a little bit more than we wanted it to have going on as well. We looked at Argentina, we looked at Panama. For a second, we looked at Portugal. But then the Portuguese and proximity to Spain, which you might as well just go where you want it to go. So we ended up just coming to the southern coast of Spain. Once we narrowed down Spain, we originally thought we would end up toward Valencia, up a little bit north of the coast, but decided that was just too big of a city for us having to raise children. So we decided to venture down a little bit and ended in Estepona. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit more authentically Spanish, just because it's a small started off as a fishing village. But we're here, and we still have proximity to Malaga, where you're going to have the arts, you're going to have the technologies, you have the universities. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Please.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Vionette. I am with Century 21 over here in Wilmington. Just I'm a Latina, so I'm kind of understand your thing about the culture. What are some things that if I have a client that, besides contacting you, that I want to, go that way, and besides culture and schools, what are some of the financial major points that I should stress out before they decide to just go and take the plane and ask for a long-term visa?
Yeah, so their visa process is going to be heavily influenced by their financial situation. So it's usually going to be easier to have the financial situation in place before you even think about applying for the visa. Most of the visas are going to have some sort of um, minimum income regulation on it where you're not even going to get approved for the visa if they know or question if you can sustain yourself or not. So that for the digital nomad visa, it was that what it's around like 3,000 euros for an individual, and then that price goes up if you add on dependents. If you're married, if you have children, that price goes up. So you have to show a little bit more income. And that's just, they want to guarantee that you have the finances to take care of yourself, being that you're not a national. But there are some web pages. I'll have to look them up. I don't know them off the top of my head. But if somebody's really interested in wanting to be more mobile, there's a couple remote job web pages that I've heard people have some success on, as far as finding something that's going to allow them to be more nomadic in their lifestyle.
Tiffany, can I ask you a question? I just
Yeah.
wanted to find out from you medical, comparing the medical side, for your family as a family in the US versus there. How does that compare for medical
Yeah.
insurance?
Yes. LCS, a good one. So within a month of us moving, my husband tore his Achilles tendon. So
Mhm.
I am prepared for real life experience. So medical care is one of the reasons that universal medical care is one of the reasons that a lot of people look at trying to leave the States, because if anyone is going to the doctor, the co-pays, the deductibles, all of that ends up adding up on you. In Spain, as an expat immigrant, for that first year, we had to buy private medical insurance, and that was required for us to obtain our visa, because they want to make sure that you can, again, they want to make sure you can take care of yourself, but also I don't think that they find you vetted enough to put you on to their national universal health care. So we did have to have health care for that first year. Now, they just had some legislation go through at the beginning of this year where Spain approved medical care for anyone that takes up a residency. So that means once you have been approved for like your tax residency status, even if you're still waiting on your visa and all that, you could get medical care. When that rolls out, I don't know. But so for that first year for our visa, and this may differ for different visas, we had to have private medical care, which came out to $2,400 to cover a family of four for a year.
Wow.
So my husband had tore his Achilles. I think it was a 3-night stay, an MRI, surgery, and physical therapy. We did the conversion. It came out to about $8,000 that our private health insurance covered.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's significantly cheaper. I'm telling you, as the former nurse, it's cheaper.
You do have a little experience in that field, don't you?
Just a little bit. And honestly, the care was good. Oh, this is one surprise just to end it up, but the customer service here, I think we are a little bit spoiled in the States, just a little bit. But I find it efficient. It was something that got under my skin a little bit when we first moved. But like in the hospital, I'm used to when I was a bedside nurse, like, oh, I have to go in and check on my patient every single hour that they're awake. And you can die down to every 2 hours. They weren't coming in there if you didn't call them here in Spain. So some people are like, oh, it's worse. I'm like, no, they're coming, but you have to call them. You have to ask for that. And it's kind of the same experience when you go to a restaurant. You're not going to get that. They're not bringing you a check, pushing you out of that table. You have to ask for the check. So that was one cultural thing that at first I was like taken aback, but I've learned to appreciate it. You got to soak up all the small stuff, and everyone takes advantage of it.
Tiffany, I've got another question for you. When you pay a tip, when you have dinner, I know we've got so many places here that we have to pay tips. Is it very different there?
Yes, here it is not standard practice to pay a tip. Workers are paid a living wage, regardless of what their job is. They have to meet the minimum income payment requirements. Some people can actually take offense, depending on where you are. Some people will take offense to if you leave a tip. It's kind of like a knock at them having a job and being able to care for themselves. If you go to some of the more touristy areas, this happens more in Marbella because it's a big tourist area. You'll go to some of the I don't want to call them higher names, the big name restaurants, and they'll try to request tips, but you're not going to find that on the outskirts of those big tourist spots.
Well, this has been absolutely fabulous, Tiffany. I can't thank you enough for being here with us in our group and NC Realtors from abroad. Karen Holt says, "Thank you, Tiffany. This was an excellent presentation. You are the best, and we miss you." Wendy Clausen says, "Thank you." So lots of props coming out. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Angela Burgess, and she's going to wrap us up. But certainly, Tiffany, if there's any last minute messages you'd like to leave the group, all of her contact information is on the page right now. So if you guys want to jot that down real quick before we end, and of course, I put her Instagram in the chat. Angela,
Yeah.
Tiffany.
As we wrap up, I'd like to encourage you to visit our NC Realtors Global Facebook page and our website. Links are in the chat. An educational opportunity we would like to share with you. If you are interested in expanding your business and working confidentially with international buyers and investors, consider earning your Certified International Property Specialist CIPS designation. The CIPS program provides practical knowledge, valuable networking opportunities, and the tools to grow your global real estate business. You can find the registration link on our ncrealtors.org website for the August CIPS course. And I did put a link there for you as well. And we want to thank you for participating in today's webinar, and just keep a lookout for some potential more in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Angela. And Daniel Whitted says he finished his CIPS last year. I have mine. Just show of hands, who's in the room, who's got their CIPS. It's an incredible program, teaches you all the nuances of how to treat a person who may not be where you're from. And it's a really great program. So we certainly encourage you guys to investigate that. Tiffany, any last words?
Just thank you for the time. And, Spain is beautiful, but so is the rest of the world. So I'm looking forward to, Angela, you're going to have to invite me to these other ones as we spread out and get more of these webinars going.
Absolutely.
So it's great.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Angela, for keeping us square, and Chelsea for hosting us this morning. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and hopefully we'll see you guys all soon. Bye.